real coach does? Spend 25 G's to take care of his guys. I see you, Nate McMillan. Know what a real star does? Carry his team to the playoffs when they have an under 1% chance to do it. I see you, Russell Westbrook. I see you, Stephen A. in L.A. Molly's right here. You stay right there. Holla at your boy. Woo.
Good evening, basketball fans, wherever you may be.
What time is it?
It's a beautiful day, man.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome now to playoff basketball.
New York, we here.
I want to be a champion.
It ain't nothing, I want more.
It's a new season for us. That's the mentality we all want to have.
You know what I'm here for.
We have to be ready.
We're not going to overcomplicate it.
It's the process.
I don't know about you all, but I am pretty hyped. It is a feel-good Friday. It is gorgeous out. We have playoff basketball. Stephen A's in L.A. He was already DJing, getting the vibes going, a little Hove. Max Kellerman on the tees. How we feeling, fellas? We ready to do
No,
this?
Stephen A's got to be tired. You don't look tired, but brother, you can't be getting any sleep out there. Getting up for a 4 a.m. meeting?
Man, last night was the first night I got some sleep in 3 days. First night I got some sleep in 3 days. But I'm ready now.
All right, let's do this.
When the red light comes on, he's always ready.
Facts on facts. All right, let's go. You know who else is always ready? That would be Russell Westbrook. He delivered a passionate speech in the middle of the season after a loss, telling his teammates that they're going to make the playoffs despite all the injuries, a COVID-19 outbreak, and losing streaks. On Thursday night, Westbrook delivered, scoring 18 points, 15 assists, 8 rebounds to spark Washington's 142-115 play-in tournament rout over Indiana to clinch the 8th seed. So here's the deal. Washington next faces the top-seeded Philadelphia 76ers on Sunday in the first round after completing a relentless run to a playoff berth that hasn't been done in nearly 25 years, y'all. Here's the triple-double king.
I just wanted to let the team know that, this season, at the time, we were struggling and everybody was doubting us on the outside, and we had to figure out a way to knuckle up and, make the playoffs. Simple as that. I didn't care what happened in the previous games. Moving forward, we had to figure ourselves out, look ourselves in the mirror, start with myself, and I made it clear to the guys that we will make it.
I want to go shopping with Russell Westbrook. Stephen A., what does this mean for Westbrook's reputation, what he pulled off?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, is this a trick question? Are y'all kidding me?
No.
This is Russell Westbrook that we're talking about here. 22, 11, and 11 he's averaged on the season. Another triple-double. The dude, how many times have I had to say it? The most athletic point guard in the history of basketball, a surefire future Hall of Famer, first ballot as far as I'm concerned. And we're celebrating him making it to the playoffs. I would remind Russell Westbrook and anybody else that wants to support his position that at the time that people were down on them, it would have something to do with the fact that they were the 13th seed in the Eastern Conference and 15 games below 500. That might have something to do with why people had doubts. Okay, I'm just saying. All right. Now, credit to him, to Scott Brooks, to their young squad with some talent on there, and of course, Bradley Beal for them doing what they did going at 17-6 to close out the season and getting themselves in position to make the playoffs, and then showing up last night and making a lie out of me, because I thought the Indiana Pacers would be a hell of a lot better than that. But Russell Westbrook has destroyed them this season, and more power to him. He did it again last night as far as I'm concerned. Here's the thing. Russell Westbrook, everybody talks about the Wizards like there's this team that's never been in the playoffs. Prior to the last 2 seasons when they were ravaged by injury, particularly to John Wall, the Washington Wizards had made the playoffs 4 times in 5 years. They had gone to Game 7 of an Eastern Conference semifinals against Boston. It wasn't like they were off the radar or something like that. Now, Russell Westbrook's arrival definitely has elevated them, and we appreciate that. But when it comes to Russell Westbrook, excuse me, y'all, I've seen this guy in 4 conference finals. I've seen this guy in the NBA finals. But since Kevin Durant has departed from Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook has been out of the first round in 3 of the 4 years. And last year he went to the semifinals. He had COVID and all of that other stuff, playing with James Harden in Houston, and was a man amongst boys. He gave it all he had, but they couldn't beat LeBron and the Lakers. But 3 of the last 4 years he's been out in the first round. And this year is going to make 4 of 5 years that he going home in the first round because they ain't beat Philly. So y'all go ahead and celebrate all you want to. I want to see Russell Westbrook playing, competing for championships. And we know that the Washington Wizards have no chance of doing that.
That's right. They don't. And by the way, they almost didn't have any chance of making the playoffs, Stephen A. The number I saw was in April at some point, it was a 0.6% chance. A 1 in 200 shot almost. Under 1% chance of making the playoffs. And Russell Westbrook basically told his team, I'm going to get us there. And he did. That helps. Does it erase every bad thing that's ever happened in his career in the playoffs? Of course not. But it's another little piece of evidence. It helps. And by the way, you know how many point guards have ever been the best player? Let's just take the recent years on a championship team. Almost none. You could say Steph Curry, but let me amend that. You know how many point guards have been the best player on a championship team where it wasn't due to injury? Right? Steph Curry was the best player on his team, didn't win Finals MVP, but was the best player on his team when they won the championship because LeBron had 2 guys hurt, Kyrie and Kevin Love hurt. Who's on it? Has James Harden been the best player on a championship team? Has CP3 been the best player on a championship team? Why is Russell Westbrook getting killed? Oh, well, because he had Kevin Durant. He hasn't really even proved that he could be the second best player on a championship team. And that's fair criticism. We got to admit what's fair. But it's also fair to point out that this dude seems to have a will to win that carried his team, that looked dead in the water to the playoffs. Stephen A., let's not forget, he came out uninspired last game, the game before this. And I was even shocked by it, like no intensity from Westbrook. And he was playing a Pacers team that seemed to be playing very good basketball, inspired basketball. They beat a team in Charlotte that had the same energy Westbrook did last time out. That's why you like the Pacers. That's why people are picking the Pacers. But when it was win or go home, Russell Westbrook showed up. And to pretend that didn't happen, that doesn't help his reputation is ridiculous. It occurred. Of course it helped.
No. It's not about being ridiculous. It's about people like you being shameful. And here's why. Because you're the guy that feeds that kind of mentality where he's allowed to sit around and act like people are hating on him. That is not true. When has Russell Westbrook been hated on over the last 4 years? When Kevin Durant departed from OKC, we blamed Kevin Durant. How do you go from a game 7 in a conference finals to sitting up there saying basically you can't win with this guy? How do you do that? We pointed the finger at Kevin Durant. We pointed the finger at Kevin Durant, leaving him high and dry and leaving him to absorb whatever level of little criticism was thrown in his direction when people were looking at his point guard play. We raved about the triple-double. He was voted a league MVP. We've recognized his greatness. We've talked about him being one of the most athletic point guard in NBA history and how great he is. And then somehow, some way, because somebody reminds him of that greatness and talks about how we want to see this greatness when it really, really matters, deep into the playoffs at the very least. You got LeBron hugging him on the court and then tweeting about how, you know what, the haters out there can hate. Who the hell has been hating on Russell Westbrook? Nobody has. The fact of the matter is we all have appreciated his greatness. The fact that he goes 100 miles an hour, he never cheats you with effort. He steps on the court. He goes after everybody. He makes no friends for the opposite uniform. He goes after them like a piranha. We all know that about him. So this stuff about people hating on him, no, you're reminding him, yo, bro, you are here. You're that elite. We want to see you when it really, really matters. We don't want to see you squeezing into the playoffs, fighting for a 10th seed or an 8th seed, and then you go home in the first round. There's nothing wrong with that.
By the way, well, that's mostly fair about Westbrook. That's mostly fair criticism about Westbrook. In the last 3 years, he's been on 3 different teams. And the same thing that's happened happens every year. Happened this year again. New situation, new teammates. And it's like first half of the year, he's falling off. Second half of the year, he figures it out. He's amazing as always. So like in that situation, you're getting acclimated. Sometimes it takes you a couple of years. He hasn't had that. That's number one. Number two, we act like Russell Westbrook's never been to a finals before his prime. He wasn't in his prime yet. He was green. You would say wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac. And they came up short. Was in the finals. Was in a Western Conference Finals against one of the greatest teams of all time. Went to a Game 7. So what I'm asking you is, if that's true about Westbrook, it just feels to me that he hears that. I don't hear that criticism of Chris Paul. Chris Paul's been on some great teams, and I don't think Chris Paul really deserves it.
Regular season another level, postseason is an entire another level.
Brooklyn, stand up!
Coming for the top, but who gon' say a word to stop us? Know the squad don't fit no competition. Hold up, slept on our greatness long enough. Now we gon' run the score up.
We have a standard of greatness, and I think every day we get a chance to prove that.
It's obviously good to have everybody healthy, but I think we're the Big 15.
Vamos! Kyrie Irving spent the first 6 seasons of his career in Cleveland, where he was an All-Star 4 times, won Rookie of the Year, and also won a chip. He then moved on to Beantown, where he would spend the next 2 seasons. Kyrie was an All-Star in both seasons, but the Celtics never made it to the finals during his time there in Boston. And he's now in his 2nd season with the Nets. This season, Kyrie joined Larry Bird, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant as the only players to average 25 points per game in a 50, 40, 90 season. Let's not forget, y'all, that Kyrie's tenure with the C's didn't exactly end on a high note. Also this, he will play in front of Boston fans for the very first time in the series, obviously due to COVID. Stephen A., tell me this. What does Kyrie need to prove in this series?
That he's focused and not distracted. That's all. We know what a superstar he is. We know that he's box office, even though, Max, I don't know if you've seen the reports, but actually the New York Knicks sold out in 20 minutes for their playoff game. Meanwhile, the Brooklyn Nets evidently need James Harden to help sell playoff tickets. I mean, I just want to point
Stephen
that
A.,
out.
The topic
Orange
could
and
be
blue
peace
skies,
in the
baby.
Middle East, and Stephen A. would talk about actually the Knicks.
Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. That's all I'm trying to say. But anyway, let me get back to Kyrie. He's got to be focused. There's nothing about his game to talk about here. Playoff basketball, last time we did see him in the playoffs, he averaged 20 against Milwaukee, got taken out in 5 shots, just 35% from the field and just 21% from three-point range. I don't anticipate that that's going to happen this time around, not when you got Kevin Durant and James Harden as your teammates. We all know that, for all intents and purposes, this brother's box office. I think he's probably the greatest show in the NBA this side of Steph Curry. Kyrie is just that spectacular. And playing with Kevin Durant and with James Harden, we know how lethal they are. We know they should be the favorites to win it all. We know they are the favorites in most people's minds to win it all. So what could potentially get in the way? What could potentially get in the way are distractions, meaning you really don't care about basketball. There's too much going on in the world, and that's where your mind is, and you're really not that interested in playing, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of thing is the only thing that can happen. I don't believe that will happen come postseason time because it is the postseason. And Kyrie understands that he's here for a reason, and he and KD got to win the chip. Got to win the chip. It's a chip or bust. Everybody knows that. So he knows that. And as a result of that, I think that he will show up and what have you. But again, in terms of answering the question as to what he has to prove, he just has to prove that he can stay focused on the issue at hand, which is basketball, okay? He needs to be focused on that for the next 2 months so they can win the chip.
Well, I mean, you keep bringing up KD and Kyrie. They got to win the chip. To me, the key there is actually Harden and D'Antoni, but we can talk and debate about that all through the playoffs, I'm sure. What does Kyrie have to prove here? Stephen A., the fact is Kyrie's a baller when he needs to be. The fact is, or at least there's a good chance he might lead the team in scoring through these playoffs, even with KD on the team. We don't know. Let's see how this all pans out. But I do think he has some stuff to show here, and that is maybe not primarily to the fans in Boston, but to people who saw him join a Celtics team and sort of destroy the chemistry. And you can say whatever you want. Kyrie joined a team that performed a little bit worse with him on the court than with him off, which is insane. How do you add Kyrie to any team and it doesn't get better? That's insane. Might be the most skillful player who ever lived. Same thing happened in Brooklyn, by the way. Until Harden showed up. It was KD and Kyrie and Harden out of control. But you know what happened in the last series, Stephen A., who people forget about is Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is the closest approximation to Kyrie Irving in the NBA. Similar games. He's just like a smaller, not quite as good Kyrie Irving. People forget that because Kemba's been hurt at least the first half of the season, he wasn't Kemba Walker. But I saw Kemba Walker again very recently, and he outplayed Russell Westbrook. And he's the guy where people are like, yeah, he can kind of do what Kyrie does, but instead of being a guy who might erode your chemistry, he's a guy who's going to, build up the chemistry. He's a good locker room guy. He's going to be a leader, right? And Kyrie, if he has anything to prove in this series, to me, it's no. Kemba Walker's one level, I'm another. Kemba does not replace me. For example, Kemba can't outplay him. You mentioned Kyrie being a distraction. Right, that can't happen. He, especially against the Celtics, especially with fans in Boston, Kyrie can't show up and be any kind of problem or show that, yeah, the guy who replaced me, the version of me who's not quite as good, but in important ways better, that can't happen. He's got to be better than Kemba. If he's got anything to prove, maybe that's it.
Okay, let's bring in a guy who played for the Nets and who calls their game. My guy, Richard Jefferson. It's been a minute. Good to see you. So I'm going to ask you the same question. What does Kyrie Irving need to prove? Stephen A. said he can't be a distraction. Max says he's got to be better than Kemba Walker.
He's got absolutely nothing to prove, right? Now, understand this. Kyrie's role with this Brooklyn Nets team is very similar to his role with the Cleveland Cavs. You have the ultimate playmaker. Once it was LeBron James. Now you have James Harden. When James Harden came over, there was so much conversation about it. Well, is who's going to be the point guard? Is there not? Kyrie was like, hey, this is your ball. You are the point guard. I'm going to be the scorer. That's what he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like the second year we went to the NBA Finals, their third time going to the finals, he led the team in shot attempts. That's where he feels most comfortable. But he also wanted to prove that he could run a team, that he could be a point guard. And that's what the Boston situation was. I think after experiencing that in Boston, he decided, one, he wanted to pair up with, he picked his team. It was Kevin Durant. It was DeAndre Jordan. They picked their location. This is where they wanted to build something. So then what does he do? They bring in James Harden. So then he was like, look, I feel most comfortable. I've had the most success as an individual player when I just go out there and score. And I don't worry about getting other people involved. I go and be aggressive. Now, listen, don't start shaking your head. He goes and gives you a 50, 40, 90. Now, when we talk about what Kyrie has to prove, he's already won a championship. He's already been a part of playoff runs. There is nothing that he's going to accomplish in this role that he hadn't accomplished already in Cleveland. What is he going to hit a game-winning shot? The only thing that Kyrie has to do is win a championship because you picked your team, you brought them together at your location. The only thing that you have to do is win a championship, and you've already done that.
Well, first of all, you're pretty slick because I was getting ready to jump all over you and say you're too brilliant of a basketball mind. You've accomplished too much in this game. You've been connected to this game for far too long, and you're far too knowledgeable to make that insane, to give that insane take you just gave. But you covered yourself because you closed out with the point. That's exactly what I was going to make.
Don't bury the lead.
Listen, they're all in Brooklyn because of Kyrie Irving, not Madison Square Garden. They're in Brooklyn because that's where Kyrie wanted to be. A lot of people don't realize this. KD went to Brooklyn because that's where Kyrie wanted to go. You understand what I'm saying? Kyrie essentially followed Kyrie to Brooklyn, even though KD's the man and he's the reason why Brooklyn would do everything. Because Brooklyn didn't necessarily care to have Kyrie. It's that KD wanted to come to Brooklyn, but he wasn't going to do it without Kyrie, and Kyrie wanted to go there. That's really the story, but that's a different story for another day. At the end of the day, let's pay attention. They were already a champion, meaning Kyrie Irving, with LeBron in Cleveland. Because KD's out, people are looking for you to be the showstopper, but you end up getting injured again. And now here we go. You in Brooklyn this year. You got Harden. You got KD. Don't tell me there's nothing to prove in terms of, not as an individual player, nothing on the court per se in terms of his performance. But what you can't be is any kind of distraction that people can look at and say, if they don't win the chip, that's part of the reason why. That cannot happen with him. If that happens with him, it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
That, Richard.
What? No. Well, no, my only thing is this. You said, what does he have to prove, right? He doesn't have, I don't think he necessarily has to
stay
prove
focused.
that. No, but yeah, stay focused. But what does he have to prove? In my opinion, on the court, and this is where we all agree, individually, his talent. My only thing is this. He's already proven what he can do in the postseason. He's already proven the numbers that he can do. The one thing that Kyrie has to prove is that he can bring a team together like he did and win a championship.
Has he proven that he can be a distraction?
Well, one of the problems that he's facing is the Brooklyn Nets have such overwhelming firepower. They're supposed to
might not
win.
matter.
So that's why if he has nothing to prove, that's why. But to Stephen A's point, Richard, there is downside. It's almost like there's no upside, but there is downside. Don't be a problem. Don't be a reason the team implodes. Don't let Kemba Walker, even if the Celtics lose, but they give a spirited effort, they play together. Kemba plays just as well as Kyrie. Yeah. Stuff like that. There's limited upside because it's the first round. You're overwhelming favorites. And Richard, I agree with you. To me, the secret sauce in Brooklyn is like quiet as kept. It's James Harden and Mike D'Antoni running what they run, except now their weapons are KD, Kyrie, and Joe Harris. Good luck. Good freaking luck.
Time out, Max. You know why, Richard, you know why I always dismiss Max when he says that? Stay with me, Max, because I'm very serious about this. I'm not saying that you're wrong about D'Antoni with Harden, but what if another coach had a different system, but I still had KD, Kyrie, and James Harden? Wouldn't that work too? If Scott Brooks was coaching those three,
maybe not like this.
If Scott Brooks was coaching those three instead of Westbrook and Bradley Beal and some young talent in the nation's capital, would there be a difference? If Tom Thibodeau was coaching this team instead of the Knicks, would there be a difference? I mean, if Greg Popovich had them instead of what he has in San Antonio right now, would there be? Stop acting like Mike D'Antoni with Harden.
No, but what I'm saying is
Harden, KD, and Kyrie.
Wait,
it don't
Richard,
matter who's coaching them.
let me. I understand your point, Stephen A. Let me be very clear about what I'm saying, why I like them, even though they've been hurt. They've only played 8 games together and everything else. I look at the Golden State Warriors with KD, the team that LeBron basically raised the white flag before the series started. Who can ever beat them? Went to a 7th game against Houston that Houston didn't even have Chris Paul, missed everything. Almost beats the best team ever. Now it's D'Antoni's system run by Harden, but with the Warriors' talent. Forget it. It's over. And it doesn't have to do primarily with KD or Kyrie.
All right, here's what I know. Vegas also thinks it's over because they have them winning the finals. RJ's going to be back with us. The Nets are favored by 7.5. And First Take just getting started on this Friday. So coming up next, a quote from Hawks head coach Nate McMillan, Stephen A., about your Knicks that got him fined $25K. Is he thinking conspiracy theory, or maybe was it just a chess move? Max Kellerman's thoughts as well. The more important player to stopping the Lakers, is it CP3 or Devin Booker? Our guys are on opposite time. Quick takes, let's go. Stephen A., Heat, Bucks. Who will remain standing? We got Stephen A. here.
Well,
right here.
Okay, there you go.
I didn't hear anything.
Heat, Bucks. Who's going to win, Stephen A.?
Bucks in 7.
All right, let's keep it going. Max, Blazers, Nuggets. Which team advances?
This is a tough one. I'm going to take the Nuggets, and I'm going to say that Jokic is unstoppable. They're going to double him, and that means even without Jamal Murray, Porter's going to do his thing. I like the Nuggets in 7.
Okay, Stephen A., Hawks, Knicks. Are you confident in your squad to get out of the first round?
Hell yeah. Now, I think it's going to be tough because the Hawks are a young, talented team, but the operative word is young, and they're going up against a top defense in the NBA. I think it's going to be a little bit too much for them in 7 games. Knicks in 7. They close it out at Madison Square Garden.
They're young, but they're ready. Let's stay with that series. Atlanta Hawks interim coach Nate McMillan fined $25,000 for saying the NBA wants the New York Knicks in the playoffs. Here's the quote. Absolutely. I've talked about that to the team a lot. Basically, I've gone as far as saying the league wants this. They need this. New York, this is a big market for the league, and New York has been out of the playoffs for a number of years. And this is a team that our league, they want to see. There's a huge fan base, and they want to see New York in the playoffs. Earlier today on KJZ, Commissioner Adam Silver had this to say.
Nate's a veteran coach. I mean, he knows better. I mean, he's trying to inspire his team to suggest that the league somehow would prefer some teams over others, and it's just not the case. And he knows it, and he's got a young team, and he just wants to get them going.
Max Cal.
Yeah.
Nate McMillan's comments, fair or foul?
Totally fair. And let me say, I'm not questioning Adam Silver's ethics. And I think Adam Silver's a terrific commissioner, and I love the way, what are you rolling your eyes for?
I'm not going to even tell you.
Sentence.
I'll school you one day. I'm not going to even tell you why I'm rolling my eyes, but go ahead.
Hey, you school me. And I think he answered that perfectly. Like, yeah, the coach is trying to, don't get on him. But let me say this. Not only is it totally fair for Nate McMillan to say it, he knows as soon as he opens his mouth, it's going to cost him money. He knows here comes 25 G's and he's willing to spend it. And why is he willing to spend it? Well, look, let's first look at what he said. He told no lies. And it doesn't even have to be a conscious thing. Look, businesses are incentivized by profit. Your incentive is to optimize your profits, right? And so if you alienate a fan base of 20 million, New York is the largest fan base or the largest market in the country by 100%. It's twice the size of LA, which is twice the size of the next market. 20 million fans, 20 million people. And have they been as engaged in the NBA as they should have been over the last 20 years because of the pathetic state of the Knicks? No. You know, if the Knicks advance, the whole league is going to be enhanced by that? Of course. So you know it makes you money. Your incentive. You're incentivized to want the Knicks to do well. That doesn't mean you're telling the refs, call it for the Knicks, anything like that. But the incentive exists, and incentives shape behavior. Okay, so since you know that, you're Nate McMillan, you say it out loud. Now, what does that do? What does that do? It exerts a little pressure. It boxes the refs a little bit. Don't let it be some crazy disparity in free throws, right? Oh, the Knicks are getting one free throw for every 3 their opponent gets. Don't let something happen like that. In a close call, is it human nature to think, let me call it for the, yeah, it is. He is doing whatever he can to exert public pressure. Phil Jackson used to do the same thing to the Knicks, Stephen A. Well, basketball's a beautiful flowing game. It's not about, it's not so physical and stuff because he didn't want the other team to be more physical. Nate McMillan is giving his team the best chance, and he's spending 25 G's to do it. It's fair.
That's why it's foul, because that's the kind of edge you looking for. What's the matter? You scared? You scared of Julius Randle? You scared of Julius Randle, Nate McMillan? You scared of him? You scared? You scared of R.J. Barrett? What, you scared, Nate McMillan? That's what it is? I thought you had Trae Young. I thought you had Collins. I thought you had DeAndre Hunter. I thought you had Clint Capella. I thought you had a crew, Nate McMillan. You 27-11 as a coach since you took over after Lloyd Pierce was let go. You've proven once again you're a hell of a coach, all right? You're a hell of a coach, all right? You got young players. You got one of the great shooters, one of the great young stars in this game in Trae Young. What's the problem? Why you need that kind of edge? What's up? And that's what it is? You scared? You scared of Julius Randle? You scared of Quickly? You scared of Derrick Rose? The re-emergent Derrick Rose? You scared of R.J. Barrett? What's up? Why you need to do something like that? What you need to do something like that for? How you gonna come into the series before one single game was played in the postseason already complaining about the officials, already complaining about the league? What's up, Nate McMillan? What's going on? That's my brother. I love him. I appreciate the job that he's done. Very, very happy for him. By the way, Mark Spears showed up on the jump the other day, and I'm glad he reminded us all. Nate McMillan, Atlanta Hawks, would you please give this man a contract extension? Would you please make him the permanent head coach for the Atlanta Hawks?
How the
hell is he looking for, looking for a new contract? This is his only season. Give the man a damn contract. Now back to this. Adam Silver is absolutely right. The Milwaukee Bucks are relevant. Small market teams, in the NBA's eyes, the small market teams, the more successful you are, the better it is. Want to hear no stuff about New York. If the New York Knicks, if it really was in the league's best interest for the New York Knicks to be relevant, Zion would be in New York because the ping pong ball would have went to them instead of the New Orleans Pelicans. So don't get me started with that. I'm just saying it's foul because you're looking for an edge. And what you looking for an edge for, Nate McMillan? You scared? You scared of Julius Randle? You scared of R.J. Barrett? You scared of Derrick Rose? He sound a little scared to me.
You know something?
That's what he does. He sound a little scared.
You know something? Let me take a page out of your book. That's nauseating. This is a Knicks fan. Molly, I want you to take a good look at a Knicks fan. Makes everything about the Knicks, no matter what we're talking about. And he tries to turn this whole thing into anyone scared of the Knicks. So let me ask you something. When Phil Jackson used to do exactly what Nate McMillan is doing right now, and he had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, was he scared of the Knicks?
Not
was
true.
He scared?
Not true.
He used to work the refs publicly.
Phil did it. Phil did it in the throes of a series, trying to switch momentum and things of that nature after games were played. He didn't do it before the damn series started. Not a game has been played yet.
Right, even better to do
Nothing
it now.
has been played yet.
Look,
not even
Nate
better.
McMillan is
It's not even
shining a
better.
spotlight
I'm
on a
saying he
certain
sounds
issue.
He sounds scared.
And now,
he sounds scared.
No,
That's what Julius Randle. Julius Randle scared. Julius Randle got him scared.
And now here comes scared. Right.
Derrick Rose got him scared. That's what I sense. That's what I sense. That's all I'm saying.
Nate McMillan is shining a spotlight on something. And if it turns out the Knicks are getting, say, a lot more calls or a controversial call goes their way, Nate McMillan after a game can come out if they're down 2-1. Well, it's a close series. It's like a 50-50 series. Nate McMillan is giving every edge to his team. So he can come out at a press conference and spend another 25 G's and say, this is what I was talking about. They made 20 more trips to the free throw line than we did.
Since when did a team need an edge against the Knicks? They're supposed to be the little old
Knicks are the 4 seed. Atlanta's the 5 seed.
Right. That's orange and blue skies, baby. Times have changed. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm not talking to this
That's
dude
what I'm
anymore.
trying to say.
I'm not talking to you no more.
Orange and blue skies, baby.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Orange and blue
New York,
skies.
stand up. New York, stand up.
Stephen, your Knicks had the second longest odds to be in the playoffs, yet they are here. So resilient. The microcosm of the city in New York. We're just coming back.
It ain't just the Garden, Molly. The fans taking over Phillips Arena. We coming down to the ATL because we travel, yo.
You have no problem doing that.
This how it's gonna be. New York, stand up.
The team in New York, you want to know the team in New York is right over, plays right over in Brooklyn.
I can't ride with that. Sorry, Matt. That I can't ride.
In Brooklyn. Well, you'll be riding with them by the conference final.
Sure.
Don't worry about it. You'll have no choice.
Once the Knicks lose, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But they won't lose to Atlanta.
All right, we shall see. We will leave it there, fellas. When we come back, Steph Curry facing a win or go. And both New York teams are in it. The Lakers looking to repeat as they open up their first-round series against the 2 seed in the West. Coach of the Year, Monty Williams, CP3, Devin Booker. However, LeBron has never lost a first-round series in his career or faced his good friend Chris Paul. On that note, we bring in NBA analyst Monica McNote gracing your screens. Monica, what's going on, girl? How we doing?
Good morning, Molly. Just doing a little bit of laundry here as I get ready. You know,
that's a beautiful uniform.
Just, you know.
Yeah, make sure you use dryer sheets.
That's what I'm talking about, girl. That's
They're
what I'm
getting
talking
excited
about,
because
girl.
they might make it to the second round.
New York, stand
I
up.
was once like them, Molly.
New York, stand up.
Kellerman, just relax.
Just relax. I'm 47 years old. I have been waiting to see them win a championship in my lifetime.
We don't care what you want.
47.
You don't count in New York no more. You shouldn't even be allowed residency in the state of New York. You're a traitor. You're a traitor. We don't want to hear nothing from you about the Knicks. You're a traitor. Just go. Just go.
Right.
Okay?
In the Knicks. You're right about
New York. New York in the building.
You all root for a team where the owner has Charles
Sold
Oakley.
out Madison
Get out
Square
of here.
Garden.
Guys, I got like 10 minutes to hang out with y'all. Hold on, let me get my points off. Come on, Monica.
You set this off, Monica. Monica, don't turn around like you're all innocent. You set it off.
She's laundry. She's working from home. It's a pandemic. She's multitasking. That's what great women do. All right, Stephen A., who do the Lakers need to worry about more, CP3 or Booker?
CP3, because of his floor generalship and leadership. Devin Booker's a scorer machine. He's a young star. Love him. But we understand that the difference with this year's team is CP3, the leadership and tutelage that he's helped Monty Williams and the staff provide to the rest of the young players out there. Him and Jay Crowder, I can't say enough about, the pickup of him and how much he's helped them as well. That experience is what we're going to be looking for. Because the reason I got the Lakers winning this series, albeit in 7 games, is because I expect LeBron and his experience to ultimately come shining through. But if there's anybody that can galvanize the troops and peel everything out of them, it's somebody like CP3. Wherever he goes, the team gets better. When he departs, they get worse. It's that simple. And that's the case with the Phoenix Suns right now. So I would say CP3.
Yeah, though he's never been to a conference finals. Look, I agree CP3 has those intangibles you're talking about. Nothing you can do about that. What are you going to do about his leadership? What are you going to do about his decision making? You can't even counteract that. The thing to worry about is Devin Booker, because Devin Booker, as I see it, has a game that he reminds me of a little mini Kobe. Like, he can score from anywhere, almost no matter what you do. And when the lights shine brightest, it seems to me he plays better. In the bubble last year, he was killing the game. This man scored 70 points, 70, in an NBA game when he was 20 years old. And the whole thing about, is he an empty calorie stats dude on a bad team? No. In the bubble, they were 8-0, and he was scoring more than 30 points a game. No, he's a big stat dude on a team that doesn't lose. I mean, over the span of the last, plus the bubble this season, bubble plus this season, they have the best record. And Devin Booker is their best scorer. What do the Lakers do about that? You gonna put KCP on him? You're gonna bring Wes Matthews off the bench and try and stop him? What are you gonna do about Booker? You may have to put LeBron James at some points, bad ankle and all on him, because LeBron, we've seen shut down guys like Derrick Rose at times in the finals or in the playoffs back then. Like, Booker is a real problem for the Lakers right now.
Obviously, guys, both of these gentlemen are key pieces for what Phoenix is trying to do, but I'm taking this one to Chris Paul in this conversation. Yes, Devin Booker is a prolific scorer, but the Lakers also have prolific scorers. And a matchup that's really interesting to me in this one is Dennis Schroeder and CP3. We know that CP3 is the general. He's the difference in this team's performance this year compared to last year. But those are two guys that know each other. We know that Chris Paul is all about gamesmanship, talking to the refs, talking a little trash, maybe a little chicken wing here or there. So I think his ability maybe to unsettle someone that he knows so well in Dennis Schroeder could be something that we need to keep an eye on in this particular ball game. But it's definitely CP3 as the floor general, distributing for these guys, as well as playing that pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton. So I'm taking CP3 on this one, although Devin Booker is 100% going to be important.
Let's also understand one thing that's very important, Max and Monica, is this. The acquisition of Andre Drummond is significant because when you have an additional big body to put in a low post and you're not asking Anthony Davis to man up, per se, literally man on man, and he can play that role of a spy, essentially on the front line, patrolling the front line from a shot blocking perspective. That limits what you can do on the interior. Now, we look at DeAndre Ayton, and obviously he's shooting about, 56% from the field or something like that. So, he's averaging about 14 a game. The bottom line is you're going to expect something from him, a little something. He's going to have to do something. But if you're looking at everybody else, particularly the guard play, they're going to have to score. If the Lakers get back on defense, which obviously we expect them to do, you're going to have to be able to score from the perimeter primarily because you're not going to be able to do but so much on the interior. And that's what we have to take into account, the length of the LeBrons, the length of even an Anthony Davis who can get out on perimeter shooters, the length of even a Kyle Kuzma who's a legit 6'8". When you've got that kind of size, it turns you into a perimeter team primarily. And can Phoenix beat this Lakers team playing that way? That's a question mark.
Yeah, there's no debate there, but I want to pick up on what you said, DeAndre Ayton, right? Like, I liked Phoenix a lot in the preseason because I said 8-0 in the bubble, you add Chris Paul. This is not like, hey, how are Westbrook and Beal going to play together? Maybe great, but I need to see that, or even Harden and Kyrie. This was on paper, damn. Chris Paul and Devin Booker, it sounds good to me, and it has been. But another reason you really like Chris Paul on this team preseason is the only question mark for me on that team heading into the year was, ironically, their number one overall pick center, right, who's already pretty good. But they're 3 and D forwards. They don't need the ball to be effective. They can shoot. They can defend. Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, you know what that's going to be. Chris Paul and Devin Booker, you have a good idea what that's going to be. Chris Paul's effect on DeAndre Ayton, that's what you want to see, and it's been a good one. But I think DeAndre Ayton is still a little too green. If this was 2 years from now, then maybe I would agree with you guys about Chris Paul. But I think DeAndre Ayton is still a little green for this matchup with the Lakers. And so even Chris Paul's effect on him, I don't think is going to decide the series.
By the way, I said I was mistaken. I said 56% from the field. It's 62% from the field that DeAndre Ayton is shooting this year. But go ahead, Monica.
Definitely a fantastic leap by Ayton. Here's my thing, though, Max. If the Lakers run the pressure that we're suggesting at Devin Booker, right? We're seeing multiple guys hounding him. Maybe we see some double teams. it's going to be imperative to make plays, right? And I still give that playmaking edge, obviously, to CP3. Like, Book is going to have to find the open guy, and he's not going to be able to go full out Kobe throughout the course of a series. May he have some Kobe moments, but he can't be launching that thing over two guys consistently throughout the course of a series. Also, I do think that if the Suns are going to make a move, it's going to be in the earlier games. While the Lakers got the win over the Warriors, and I know you guys debated whether or not LeBron's shot was luck, there were also some moments in that game where you could see there was still some rust from this team lacking some continuity, some passes that were just a little bit ahead or a little bit behind and just a little bit off. So if the Suns are going to strike, they're going to have to strike early in this series.
And you also got to remember that LeBron, like last year, they lost game 1 to Portland. And then they came back and won 4 straight. They figure things. LeBron figures things out. So, those earlier games are more pivotal for the Suns than it is for the Lakers. Because with LeBron, he usually figures something out. But if he gets ahead of you, there's no turning back. That's really what this comes down to. So if they want to get any kind of advantage, they're going to have to take advantage early.
By the way, Monica, if you're saying they're going to have to send 2 guys at Devin Booker, then that answers the question about who they're most worried about.
No, she said CP3.
Fair. No, because you got to play basketball, Max. Like, once they run 2, he can't keep launching over 2, period. He's going to have to swing the ball. So to me, if you don't run, wow, this is my second time on First Take with Max. Did he just trip me up a little bit? No, I'm still going with CP3 is the most important.
So that's good to any. Just hold up the jersey. Just distract everybody. Let me see that jersey one more time.
Oh, I got you.
Beauty.
Here we go. I got it.
There we go. Let's just focus on that. Your Knicks are in the playoffs. Second longest odds. They made it, Monica. Here we go. All right, Monica, appreciate you. We will talk to you soon. Good stuff as always. Second time on First Take, you're killing it. You'll be back again.
Orange and blue sky.
Have a fabulous weekend. Enjoy these games. Oh, Lord. Tonight, it's Ja Morant versus Steph Curry for the chance to play the Utah Jazz in round 1 with all eyes on the Western Conference play-in game. We're debating Warriors X Factors. That is next. The Golden State Warriors will host the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, where the winner will take the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Steph Curry's been on a tear this season and is officially an MVP finalist, but he even can't do this alone. Even he can't do this alone. Rather, Stephen A., who needs to step up and help Steph tonight?
I'm going to say it's Andrew Wiggins, and I'm going to base that, Max, purely off of what I saw the other night against the Los Angeles Lakers. We all know that I've been on the record stating that I wouldn't give him away for a box of cookies. That's how I felt about Andrew Wiggins, because to me it wasn't about his talent. He could always play. It was the want-it factor that was so glaringly missing time and time again. He'd have a big game and then he'd disappear for 5 or 10 games. Or he had some of the most, what I consider some of the most meaningless 18-point per games that I've ever seen in my life. He'd finish a game with 18 to 20 points and you barely noticed it, for crying out loud, because it never really came when it really, really mattered. That was not the case the other night. The other night I watched this guy show up on the court and defend LeBron James a lot and was all in him. And I give him a lot of credit for that. Plus, he put up 21 points. Plus, he shot decently enough from the field. And I look at him, his size, his athleticism, he could do some things. Andrew Wiggins, if he really, really committed himself, I think he can average 25 a game and be a secondary offensive option. I'm saying for the purposes of tonight, that's exactly what he needs to do for one more night. He needs to go out there and put up 20 plus. He needs to help defend, whether it's Ja Morant or Dylan or anybody else. I think that's what he needs to do. And I think I'm going to give him a shot at doing it. I believe he is going to do it, and he is going to help Golden State win tonight's game, because it's going to be real tough to beat Memphis.
The answer is Draymond Green. I know why you say Wiggins, because when we say help Steph, what are we really talking about? Like, our minds immediately go to offense. But even as you pointed out, Draymond's going to have to score. He's even there. He's going to have to contribute there in some kind of way. But defensively, he was so good in the first play. And Stephen A., just like the Lakers' size that you referred to in our last segment was obvious, right? The Lakers' size kept them in the game when they weren't executing on offense, and Golden State was. And what counteracted the Lakers' size, I think more than anything, on the Golden State defensive side of things was Draymond Green. He is like, I keep saying like Ben Simmons is the best defensive player in the world, and I believe that. And then I think about Gobert and Embiid, and too often I leave Draymond off that because he's not so young anymore, but he is definitely deserving of that kind of consideration. And he's going to have to do that because Stephen A., in the play-in game, Grizzlies Spurs, who was the most important offensive piece on the Grizzlies?
Ja Morant.
What's that?
What are you talking about? Who's the most important offensive?
No, Ja Morant was not the most important offensive piece on the Grizzlies. The center was the most important.
Well, Valanciunas had 23 and 23. I get that.
Valanciunas was a load down low.
Right.
And Draymond is going to have to do a job on him, or they're not going to win. Like, Draymond's defense is going to be key in this game. And when I think of overall team-wise, who needs to be Steph's main support, it's Draymond's defense, and as you pointed out yesterday, he got to chip in a little bit offensively, too. It can't be no points.
Well, listen, Kevin Looney and others, they got to do something to help him. Valanciunas is a big, big boy. That's a lot to ask of Draymond Green. I mean, when I think about Valanciunas, other than the fact that he looks like he and Travis Kelce damn near look like twins, for crying out loud. Other than that, when I look at Valanciunas, the one thing I think about is Tyson Fury. Just a big tub of lard just leaning on you, and he can play and move and all of that stuff. I'm not saying it insultingly. I'm very complimentary of Valanciunas. I like him a lot.
He's just a load.
But he's a load. But I will tell you this. Here's the one thing I do want to say about Draymond Green, because I love the brother. You cannot go scoreless. And I said this before. You cannot go scoreless like he did the other night. And this is the thing. As we watch him with this three-point shooting, Max, because they leave him open now, over the last several years, 3 years and counting, he's at 28, 27.9, and this year at 27%. He's teammates with two of the greatest shooters that has ever played this game.
Yeah.
And I'm going like this. Look, man, you got everything else. You defend. You're smart as a whip. His basketball IQ is off the charts. He's an elite defender. He's a great point forward, a great assist provider. His chemistry with Steph Curry is spectacular to see. All of those things are true. But you got to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they got to get Dre on the court and help him make some of those threes, man. They got to work with him. Because let me tell you something. Next year, they going to the conference finals. And God help the basketball world. I don't give a damn if you got Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. God help the basketball world if Draymond Green gets a jump shot.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
If he gets any kind of jump shot. With Klay and Steph.
What masked Draymond's decline as a shooter was Kevin Durant's presence, because you didn't really need it anymore. But people forget, you're right, the original 5-out death squad was Draymond at the 5, who was shooting and hitting threes at a real good clip. I think it was at like 38% that year because of the spacing Steph and Klay gave.
2015, 2016, 38.8%.
38, and then maybe it was 33, but it was still respectable. That's what made it the death lineup. That's why you could play legit 5-out, right? And then Dre can also make decisions with the ball and get you into the offense, and Steph can play off all those things. Mm-hmm. That has not been the same Draymond Green from the outside, and as a result, Kevin Durant masked that, because when Durant's on the floor, it doesn't really matter. But now it matters more. About this, we're on the same page. He can't wind up with 0 points. He's going to have to be Steph's main support, certainly on defense, and is going to have to contribute something offensively.
10 to 12 points. 10 to 12 points. Draymond Green, that's what he should be averaging. He should be averaging 10 to 12 points a game.
Yeah, there's no debate there. I mean, whether it's 8 or 10 or 12, he's got to do something. He can't be scoreless. Right. They're not going to win.
So we need to see Wiggins and Draymond step up. Guys, we'll leave it there. When we come back, they say CP3 cannot win a ring. They laugh at Paul George's playoff P nickname. They say Harden isn't clutch. Our fellas picked the player that's going to prove everyone wrong these playoffs. In the Bucks, were the biggest letdown in the bubble last postseason, and Giannis says this postseason might not be any different. Wait, what? We'll play.
Milwaukee Bucks have the best record again in the NBA. The best defense, best offense, sailing along with 56 wins.
And just were never right in the restart.
This season will end in the bubble in Orlando on September 8th.
When speaking with the media on Thursday, Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo was asked if this year will be different than last year regarding the playoffs. And his answer, just listen.
I don't know if this year is going to be different, team. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't say that. It might be the same. Who knows? It might. We'll see. The results going to talk for themselves at the end. But at the end of the day, is that don't get too high, don't get too low. I feel like last year, probably because of the bubble, wasn't able to get away from basketball, like losing the game and just going to the hotel and seeing the players that just beat you. You like got too low.
Okay. So there's that. RJ's back with us. Reminder, the Miami Heat beat the reigning back-to-back MVP and his Bucks in 5 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals last summer. Max, do you have a problem with Giannis's comments?
Ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Giannis's comments. That's right, Richard. I don't have a problem with his comments. What you want him to do? Beat his chest and tell you and guarantee victory? That make you feel better if you see some false bravado? Oh, yeah, I guarantee you're going to win. We're going to win. How's he going to do that? By the way, people let's not forget the Heat were the only team to take 2 games from the Lakers last year. It's not just like they beat Milwaukee. They took 2 games from the Lakers last year. Only one to do it, including the entire Western Conference. No, he's not being what I see from Giannis is not someone who's insecure or scared or lacks leadership or anything, maybe as defined by many who always want to see someone talk like MJ or Kobe or Larry Bird or someone, right? No, I don't see an insecure player or a young, immature player. I see a mature player. I see someone who's being honest. I don't see him scared. It doesn't look like to me like he's scared or he thinks they can't do it. But he ain't going to guarantee you victory. How can he? Especially what's happened in the playoffs the last couple of years. I see someone who's more focused. To me, I read that as more focused on process. You can't guarantee result, but you can focus on the process. No, not everybody has to be built the same way. Not everyone has to give, we in the media, us in the media, the sound bite we're looking here. Wait a minute. Does that sound like Kobe Bryant? No, not everyone has to do that. And I hear a dude who's being real, who, by the way, has real chances, and I would favor against the Heat. And if you ask Giannis, who do you think is going to win? I'm sure he would say, I think it's us. I hope it's us. But he's not going to beat his chest to do what we want to see him do. I got no problem with it.
Well, first of all, I would appreciate it if you would stop reminding us that last year's NBA Finals was between L.A. and Miami. In my career, I have always dreamed of that matchup for obvious reasons. And the fact that they played against each other during the pandemic when people were not in attendance and it had to be in a bubble in Orlando, Florida, instead of La La in South Beach is still something that hurts me to my core. Having said all of that, I definitely do have a problem with Giannis's comments. And here's the reason why. You're Giannis. You're the reigning 2-time league MVP who came up short not once or twice in the last 2 seasons from getting out of the Eastern Conference. You had a 2-0 lead in the conference finals against Kawhi and the Toronto Raptors and got blitzed 4 straight. Last year, bubble play or no bubble play, you didn't just lose, you lost in 5. You got taken out in 5 games. I'm sorry, that matters. And when that is the backdrop, when that is the last time we've seen you in the postseason, and then you turn around and you're talking about, well, I don't know if we're going to win it. Oh, hell no. You got your $245 million contract extension, well-deserved, by the way, from Milwaukee in the offseason. They go out and they get you Drew Holiday. If one of the executives knew how to keep their mouth shut, they would have had Bogdanovich as well. You acquired P.J. Tucker. You still kept Chris Middleton. I'm sorry. I know we looking at Brooklyn, but in all honesty, Brooklyn is the only excuse Giannis should have for not winning a chip. That could be the only thing we should be able to point to, because LeBron and AD ain't 100%. The only thing we should be able to point to is Brooklyn as a reason you didn't win at all. So I don't want to hear about, we might lose to Miami in the first round. Damn it, you better not. You better not.
God, Stephen A. just preaching the gospel out here. My God, I couldn't have said it better myself. Giannis is coming off one of the best 3-year runs we've ever seen in NBA history. You're talking about best record in the league, best record in the conference, one of 3 players to win the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, one of the few players in league history to win back-to-back MVPs. Hey, maybe we give you a pass on the bubble. Maybe we give you a pass because you guys were just starting to develop 2 years ago when you had the 2-0 lead in the conference finals. But now, when you have more pieces, when you have a better team, and I'm not even worried about your record because, you guys finished, top 3, right where you're supposed to. Ultimately, when you look at that, they all went into this season like, hey, we're going to try some different things defensively. We're going to try some different things offensively. We need to be able to be more versatile. And this is the comment that you make. This is the comment that you make going into this postseason run. That, I'm sorry, doesn't breed confidence. I don't need MJ. I don't need Kobe. I've played with silent masters, Jason Kidd, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan. I've played with guys that let their game do the talking. I don't need bravado, but I do need my leader, one of the great players in NBA history, to come up with a little bit more than like, hey, we can lose to him again. Yes, everyone knows anybody can lose to anybody, but the confidence that you need to exude as a player with this type of talent, you haven't seen many statements like that from players of his caliber in NBA history, Max. NBA history, you haven't heard anything like that.
Richard, not everyone has to be built the same way. A lot of it's the way it's delivered. A lot of it is like when you look at the guy, you sizing him up. Did I see someone who lacked confidence or seemed insecure or anything like that? No, it did. He did not come off that way to me. He was asked a question. He gave you a direct answer. And by the way, the Bucks did improve the team. Not as much as the Sixers improved their team. Not as much as the Nets improved their team. That, the Bucks, to me, on paper, do not look like one of the 2 best teams in the conference. I'm being honest.
Well, Max, first of all, can we stop acting like we ready to handcuff him and throw him in jail? We're saying we disagree with the damn comments, okay? Let's pump the brakes here. That's all we're saying. We're saying that we don't necessarily like those comments, and here's the reason why. We talked about Harden and KD and Kyrie and how prolific this offense is, even though they've only played 8 games together. They would happen to be the number 2 offense in the NBA. Do you know who number 1 is? That would happen to be the Milwaukee Bucks, with Giannis averaging 28 and 11, with Chris Middleton averaging 20 and shooting nearly 40% from three-point range, along with guys like DiVincenzo, Drew Holiday. PJ Tucker is even shooting 39.4% from three-point range. When you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, now, Max, if he made this statement, even though we wouldn't like it, and you were about to go up against the Brooklyn Nets, I feel you. But when the statement is made about a first-round series against the team that bounced you out in 5 games, the last time we saw you, again, we ain't cuffing you and throwing you in prison. We're simply saying, yo, man, that ain't what we trying to hear. Not from a reigning 2-time league MVP. That's all we're saying.
He's not trying to tell us what we want to hear. That's not what he's there
we
doing.
Know this. We know this, and we ain't trying to do nothing. We just say we don't like it.
Did he sound insecure to you? Is that how he sounded to you? Did he sound scared?
No, but it's not about him sounding insecure, Max. It's about the energy that he is putting out to his teammates, to the organization, to the fan base. It's not a matter of like whether Giannis had 50 against the Brooklyn Nets. We know this man can play. We know this man can ball. And look, the only reason, like when you say we don't need a Kobe or an MJ, we don't need him to be that. But we do want him to be great. He has established that he wants to be great. And I'm not saying, like, look, everybody makes statements. Everybody says stuff like, look, LeBron James called Steph Curry the MVP before they play against him. Was he setting up something, or was he just kind of buttering him up so he wouldn't be as fired up? Who knows? There are tactical things that you can say vocally, whether it's to calm down something or to perk people up.
Guys,
at the end of the day, when a person has had this type of 3-year stretch, you got to show
here's
some
the problem,
confidence.
Richard. Here's the problem, Richard. Giannis is actually a big. Stephen A. identified that correctly when, to me, it looked like he's kind of a hybrid wing. But no, he's really a big, actually. And in the history of the NBA, almost every time A super great big needs another dude on his level if he's trying to win a
Max,
chip.
stay on point, bro.
So
stay on point.
This is the point, Stephen A. This is the point.
The point is it's unacceptable to lose in the first round against Miami.
They did not get him.
Don't sound like that.
They did not get him that guy. If you want to pretend Drew Holiday is that.
Hold it. You making excuses for him all time already?
Making
excuses for him already?
Max.
Yeah.
Is there any excuse? I got a simple question. Is there any excuse whatsoever for the Milwaukee Bucks to lose to the Miami Heat in the first round?
Is there an excuse? Yeah, if Miami's better. Miami could make a run. Yeah. That's right.
I got my look.
Unless you think Miami can't make a run.
Look. Anybody can beat. Look, I'm with you, Steve. I'm with you, Stephen A. Look. Anybody can beat anybody. I get what you're saying, Mac. Yes, but they're the defending Eastern Conference champ, and they exceeded expectations. At some point in time, we can start holding Giannis, not only just the positive side, but the negative side. The same way we talk about James Harden, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, the same way we talk about the way we want them to be leaders.
Let me ask you something. Okay, hold on.
If we're going to talk about that, if that was James Harden, if that was Kevin Durant, if that was Steph Curry, if that was LeBron James,
that's the point.
Excuse me. I'm listening every day to Stephen A. telling me that Chris Paul deserves MVP consideration. Chris Paul's an all-time great. He's one of the greatest point guards ever. Chris Paul never been past the second round.
That's
Chris Paul's playing time out. Chris
we listened to you.
No, time out. Chris Paul's playing the defending Western Conference champions who are a low seed. If they do it, if he gets bumped out by the Lakers, is there an excuse?
Excuse me. He's 6 feet, could barely
touch now you're going to bring up height? Tough if you're short. You're playing basketball.
Max, I swear to God, Molly, I swear to God, I'm going to ask for another
tall
vacation.
You are?
I can't listen to you with your ignorant self towards basketball. I can't believe that you would sit up there and try to hold the same level of responsibility to a 6-foot point guard compared to a 6'11" guy.
Shaq is 7 inches taller than Michael Jordan. You hold Jordan to a higher standard. What are you talking about?
You've called him that. You said that he was the most dominant force. I believe in Giannis. I believe in him, and I know he can play. I know he's elite. What I'm saying is, I'm not trying to question anything about Miami. They're legit too. But if you're Giannis, you do not have an excuse to lose in the first round to the Miami Heat this year. You do not have it.
I see. But Chris Paul has one to lose to the Lakers in the first round, right?
Stop instigating, RJ.
Does he or does he not?
All right. Okay. All right.
No, because he's 6 feet.
All right.
I really am disgusted.
He's an MVP, but he can't lose.
Giannis
is different.
I'm just so disgusted I have to talk basketball with you. I should be paid extra for it.
Hi, Molly.
I really should.
Hi, Molly.
Bye, RJ. Have a good
Take
day.
it easy,
Bye,
Rich.
bye
Have
everyone.
a good day,
Roll the bump. Let's go to commercial. The playoffs are about to be underway. Stephen A. looking into his crystal ball. How do we see all these series shaking out? Let's go. Stay with us. Hi, guys. Promised you predictions, didn't I? Here we go. With the playoff picture taking shape, let's get right into it. Max Kellerman, who will be the first-round MVP in the West?
It's going to be LeBron James, and I think the reason for that is going to be because they're going to have to do something about Devin Booker, and bad ankle and all. I think LeBron at times is going to, at pivotal moments, is going to have to guard him, and I think he'll do so as well as anyone can. And LeBron's two-way play in this series will be the difference. He'll be the MVP.
Max, I don't knock that at all. I'm just going to go away from the obvious, the LeBrons, the Kawhis of the world, people like that. I'm going to say Paul George. I'm going to say this is going to be a coming-out party. The brother has shot 41% from three-point range this year, 46.7% from the field, averaging 23, 5, and 5. This brother has been balling. The Clippers are no joke. We got to pay attention to them. I believe in Paul George. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to put on a show in this first-round series against Dallas.
They might need him to against Dallas if Dallas is firing on all cylinders. They were my dark horse before the season started, and health is really the issue with them. They gave Clippers hell last year until Porzingis got hurt.
All right, let's stay close to this topic and talk about the Eastern Conference. So, Stephen A., who do you think will be the breakout first-round star in the East?
Y'all ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be Seth Curry.
Oh, did you say Steph or Seth?
I said Seth.
Oh,
Seth Curry. Listen, doesn't shoot that much game. Put the ball in this brother's hands. He can make things happen. He's a Curry. That means he can shoot. I mean, it's gotten to the point right now, anybody whose last name Curry, if you can't shoot, you need to hide from the viewing public because everybody named Curry can shoot the damn basketball. That's how lethal this family is when it comes to long-range marksmanship. And Seth Curry is that guy. And if you're the Washington Wizards, obviously, Joel Embiid is a monster. You got to deal with him. Tobias Harris, you got to pay attention to him as well. Okay, you got all of that. And the guards are going to have to actually go down and help in the low post in terms of, you know what, when you got guys and Embiid is fronting them, you're going to have to get some help from the perimeter to come and offset. He's going to be kicking it out to folks, primarily somebody like Seth Curry, who I believe has the potential to light things up. I'm going to say Seth Curry.
I think it's a pretty good pick. By the way, Seth Curry shoots about 10 times a game, 5 times from 3, and hits it at 45%. Whatever you want to say about Ben Simmons, he creates a lot of open looks. Danny Green's, that team is tough. Daryl Morey did a great job. My pick is going to be, again, we're going at Doc Rivers, of course. My pick, I'm going to go away from, we're talking about breakout stars, so guys who aren't really on the radar right now but could play a pivotal role. Dante DiVincenzo, who's shooting the ball better now, who has a history, his whole career, in college too. When the lights shine brightest, he plays best. He's a winning kind of player. And I think given his role in that backcourt, given the other players on the team and the help that they are going to need against the Heat, the help that Giannis, who we just debated, is going to need, I think DiVincenzo is a guy likely to step up and have much more attention on him after the first round than right now.
All right.
Plays like that, they should beat Miami.
Yep.
Let's talk narratives here. We love talking narratives on the show. Max, who's the player with the biggest chance to change their narrative this postseason?
James Harden. The answer is James Harden, because I believe that when my eyes were on James Harden this year, regular season, I thought, that looks like the best player in basketball to me, but we all know the story in the playoffs. We all know his postseason woes, especially when it gets tight, late in games, game 7s or games on the road that they can steal. He's choked. Too often he's choked. Hasn't played up to his normally extremely high standard. But this time, Stephen A., you don't have to worry about scoring 50 points to win. He's got weapons like KD and Kyrie. I mentioned Joe Harris going to be wide open the whole time. I believe that James Harden is going to be Finals MVP this year. That's my prediction. And I think that will change the narrative about him. In fact, if he does do that, the question will be, after these finals are over, who's the best player in basketball? And if Harden does what I think he can do on this squad, it ain't going to be, LeBron has the undisputed throne. That's how highly I think of Harden's chances in these playoffs. He is obviously the guy that makes that team go, running D'Antoni's system. D'Antoni got Steve Nash as his boss right now, and James Harden still is his point guard. But with the weapons they have, we've seen Harden's success. When he doesn't play, they don't win. When he plays, they never lose. Answer is James Harden.
Let me tell you why you're wrong about this. And when you bring up Harden, first of all, I don't believe he chokes the way that you say. That's number one. But number two, I'm going to tell you why I think you're wrong. Because of the role he's playing this year with Brooklyn. The fact that he is basically the floor general and he patrols the offense and he's distributing the basketball just as much as he's shooting the basketball. The onus is no longer on him the way that it was in Houston, where he was averaging 30 a game for 3 consecutive seasons. That's not where he's at now. So the fact that he gets to step back and be a floor general, Max, you're going to look at days where he isn't a prolific scorer, and you're not going to have a problem with it because he might have 15 assists. And he ran the floor and kept the team patrolled, and the offense as well, kept the team in control, and the offense patrolled as well. I'm going back to Paul George as my pick in terms of an individual that has an opportunity to change the narrative, because particularly the way he played in Game 7, and how sporadic he was, and how open he was about the challenge of coming into the bubble where his head wasn't right, and he was a bit compromised, and we got into all of that stuff of mental awareness and things of that nature. The reality is that with some of those things that he's had to overcome, along with the fact that even though he's still big time, he's never been the same since that nasty injury in Summer Olympic play. The bottom line is when you look at him now, the season that he's averaging, 23, 6, and 5, 46.7% shooting, 41% from three-point range. And whether he doesn't need help, but he's got it now with Rondo as a legit, quintessential point guard. Of course, Patrick Beverly can defend and all of that stuff. But him doing what he's capable of doing, if Kawhi is Kawhi and Paul George takes over and is doing his thing, the Clippers could win the chip. We all know that. And that's why I say Paul George has a chance to change the narrative.
If the question for me was other than Harden, I would agree. Paul George is my second pick. But let me tell you why I believe it's Harden. Because what you said about he doesn't have to score 30, 35 points a game, let's not forget, Harden's averaged over 30 points with a ton of assists and rebounds, over the course of a season, right? But he doesn't have to do that, and people recognize that. But I'll tell you what he could do easily, average a triple-double with more than 20 points for the entire playoffs, including the finals. And let me tell you what the difference is to me. Paul George can overcome he's not a playoff performer. Yes, that's a huge narrative for him to change, and they could win if he can do that. But James Harden, there's more at stake. James Harden can not only change the narrative about him choking in the playoffs, or however you want to say it, Stephen A., doing less than he normally does in the playoffs, his team not winning a championship in the playoffs. He can not only turn that around, but right now, most people consider him the second best player on his own team. What I'm saying is by the end of these finals, I think James Harden has a chance to take at least a piece of the crown from LeBron, to where by the end of when the dust settles, we're like, I don't know if LeBron doesn't have it anymore, but there's a dispute to the throne. That's how I think Harden can change the narrative. That's an enormous narrative.
If Harden drops 25 and like 8 or 9 assists or whatever, but Kyrie drops 40 and KD drops 40, bottom line is they win, and we're talking about them as a team. He's not going to be hurt, and the narrative ain't going to elevate exponentially. Paul George is an entirely different ball game because he's the guy that needs to help Kawhi Leonard in everybody's eyes.
But even if you're right. But even if he does help, I wouldn't think he'd have a better series than Kawhi Leonard. It'll still if Paul George really helps and Kawhi's Finals MVP
Guys,
and he
real
gets all
quick.
that. Heard mine.
Before we get out of here, it's time for some more quick takes. NBA Playoffs edition, Max Keller and Mavs Clippers in the first round. Who you got?
Clippers, but not easy. The Mavericks, they only lost last year because Porzingis got tossed, right? In that one game and then got hurt. Otherwise, they were the better team. So I think they've gotten better because of Rondo, but they're going to need it. That's a tough series. Clippers in 6.
Stephen A. Smith. Go ahead. Go ahead, Stephen A. My bad.
Clippers in 6, just like last year.
Okay. Stephen A. Nets, Celtics.
Nets sweep, 4-0.
Nets in 3.
All right. Max, Wizards 6.
No, not even a reaction. Nets in 3. Get it? All right, anyway.
Wizards, Sixers, Max.
Sixers got too much. Stephen A. mentioned Seth Curry. There's Danny Green. There's got Thibault is an elite defender. They got elite defenders and three-point shooters everywhere you look. 2 dudes ain't beating that team. Sixers in 5.
I have Sixers in 5 as well. I'll show Westbrook and Beal the respect to say they'll get you 1, but they're going home in 5.
Okay. Lastly here, we'll start with you, Stephen A. Lakers, Suns.
7, Lakers. It'll take 7 games, but they'll go back to Phoenix for a game 7, and that's where they will win.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but we agree. Lakers in 7 in a nail-biting series, a really tough series that I think turns on. Like when the Lakers eventually realize they got to stop Devin Booker, that may be LeBron's job. I think he may have to pull out some real defensive heroics in this series. Lakers in 7 and close in a nail-biter.
Stephen A., take me home here. What are you most looking forward to this weekend? Because we got a ton of good NBA.
What am I most looking forward to?
Yeah.
I mean, the Knicks, that's what the hell I'm looking forward to. New York, stand up. New York, stand up. Orange and blue skies, baby. You're going to see people packing the streets of New York City. Not Brooklyn, not Atlantic Avenue. You're going to see them packing Madison Square Garden all over the city. Orange and blue skies everywhere. The Knicks have returned to relevancy, and we're ecstatic about it. A sold-out Madison Square Garden. The house is being packed. We don't care what Governor Cuomo or anybody everybody else, I say, you feel free to come on too. Join the party, baby. The Knicks.
New York, stand up.
New York,
the answer is
stand up.
the Nets.
New York,
I can't wait to see the greatest offense of all time. New York, stand up. Brooklyn.
He don't even
Brooklyn
have a
Nets.
team. Forget him.
Knicks might lose to Atlanta. You know what? I agree with you, Stephen A. I want to see Knicks in Atlanta. Because the Knicks could lose that. And I will be laughing at you. I will be scared.